Okay, buckle up, because this isn't a cute fan debate. This is fashion business territory. When people casually ask, who's the most fashionable BTS member, it sounds simple, almost playful, like scrolling comments under a runway photo. But behind the scenes, inside luxury showrooms in Paris, Milan, and Seoul, that question carries real weight. Stylists whisper about it, brand executives quietly compare notes, and creative directors absolutely notice. This isn't about who wears the flashiest outfit or who trends hardest for 24 hours. It's about who moves luxury brands, who understands fashion language without saying a word, and who can walk into a room and instantly recalibrate the temperature. BTS didn't just enter the fashion world, they disrupted it, forcing heritage houses that survived wars and recessions to rethink what relevance looks like in the age of global fandom. And here's the twist. Luxury experts don't always agree with fan rankings. Some value consistency, others obsession with detail, others that rare ability to turn clothes into narrative. One member might dominate covers, another might silently reshape menswear codes, while someone else makes luxury feel dangerously effortless. That's where this list comes in. Not to crown a winner right away, not to start a war in the comments, but to walk you through how insiders actually see it. Slowly, carefully, with receipts, atmosphere, and a little humor, because fashion takes itself seriously enough already. No spoilers yet, but by the end of this countdown, you might realize your bias and the industry's bias are not always the same thing. Number 7. Jin. Classic charm, surprise. Jin often lands at the bottom of luxury experts' fashion rankings not because he lacks style, but because his relationship with fashion operates on a completely different frequency. And that's exactly what makes him fascinating when insiders talk honestly. While other members are dissected for their silhouettes, subversive tailoring, or avant-garde risk-taking, Jin is usually described in quiet boardroom conversations with phrases like unexpected, dangerously natural, or, my favorite, he makes luxury behave. Luxury brand experts tend to value intentionality above all else, who uses fashion as a language, and Jin historically didn't chase that narrative. Early on, he dressed like someone who knew he looked good but didn't feel the need to explain why, and in the luxury world, that reads as both refreshing and confusing. Stylists note that Jin doesn't dominate a look. Instead, he lets the garment breathe, which is a nightmare for brands that want drama, but a dream for houses built on heritage and restraint. His proportions, posture, and face symmetry do a lot of heavy lifting, meaning he can wear a perfectly tailored suit and make it look almost unfairly easy, like he accidentally wandered onto a runway while heading to dinner. But here's the catch. Luxury experts rank impact over effortlessness, and for years, Jin's fashion moments felt more like quiet confidence than cultural disruption. Even after becoming a global ambassador for brands like Gucci and later Laneige, insiders still saw him as a slow-burn asset, someone whose influence accumulates over time rather than detonating instantly. Jin doesn't scream trendsetter, he whispers longevity. And in a world obsessed with shock value, whispering can place you lower on the list. Yet, experts consistently admit something interesting. Whenever Jin does lean into fashion intentionally, Milan appearances, clean monochrome fits, structured tailoring with subtle sensuality, the response inside luxury circles is immediate and almost annoyed. Like, oh great, he decided to care today. His appeal skews older, richer, and more traditional, aligning with executives who value brand trust over virality. Jin represents the kind of luxury that doesn't beg for attention, and that paradoxically makes him less visible in rankings driven by fashion disruption. He's the member experts respect more than they hype, the one whose style grows on you like a song you didn't realize you'd memorized. And placing him at number 7 isn't a dismissal. It's an acknowledgement that Jin's fashion power isn't explosive, it's inevitable. And luxury insiders know that sometimes the quietest presence in the room ends up owning it last. Number 6. Jungkook. Raw magnetism effect. When luxury brand experts place Jungkook at number 6, it's rarely said with criticism, more like cautious admiration mixed with mild confusion. Because on paper, Jungkook should dominate fashion rankings. He has the physique designers dream of, the face that photographs itself, and a global fan base that can turn a plain black t-shirt into a sold-out item overnight. But here's where insiders get picky. In luxury fashion, being wearable and being fashion-driven are two very different currencies. Jungkook for a long time leaned hard into the former. Experts often describe his style as instinctive rather than conceptual. He doesn't dress to make statements. He dresses like someone who values comfort, movement, and emotional honesty. And that authenticity is both his biggest strength and the reason he lands lower on this list. Early fashion insiders saw Jungkook as too real for luxury's theatrical side. Hoodies, oversized fits, sneakers worn like they've lived a life. These choices resonated massively with the public, but left brand creatives wondering how much of that magnetism could be molded into high fashion storytelling. When he stepped into the Calvin Klein universe, everything changed, but not in the way people expected. Luxury experts acknowledged that Jungkook didn't elevate the clothes surrendered to him. Campaign images became less about fabric and more about presence, less about tailoring and more about physical honesty. That's powerful, but from a luxury perspective, it places the spotlight on the body rather than the craft. Fashion houses love transformation, and Jungkook often refuses to transform. He remains Jungkook no matter what he wears. Insiders joke that he's anti-fashion fashion, the kind of star who makes brands famous without ever fully playing their game. His tattoos, piercings, and evolving personal style have slowly pushed him upward in expert circles, signaling a growing curiosity about rebellion and edge. But experts still see him as mid-journey. There's a sense that Jungkook hasn't fully decided what fashion means to him yet, and luxury thrives on intention. That said, when he walks into a room, the air changes. Executives notice, photographers panic slightly, and stylists suddenly want less fabric. Number 6 isn't a limitation, it's a holding position. Luxury insiders see Jungkook as a force that hasn't peaked fashion-wise, a once-in-a-generation magnet whose style power is still fermenting. And when he finally decides to weaponize fashion instead of casually surviving it, this ranking won't survive either. Number 5. J-Hope, fashion's loudest brain. Placing J-Hope at number 5 is where luxury brand experts start leaning forward in their chairs, because now we're officially in the territory of people who actually understand fashion as a system. Inside luxury circles, J-Hope isn't discussed as an idol who dresses well, but as a thinker, and that distinction matters a lot. From Paris to Milan, stylists and creative directors describe him as someone who doesn't just wear clothes, he plays with them, interrogates them, sometimes even challenges them in a way that feels intentional but never forced. His style has always been expressive, loud when it needs to be, oddly precise when you least expect it, and deeply rooted in street culture that luxury houses have been trying to bottle for decades. Experts often point out that J-Hope has a rare ability to make high fashion feel alive rather than preserved behind glass. When he attends a Louis Vuitton show, he doesn't disappear into the brand. Instead, he bends the brand's energy toward his own rhythm. That's impressive, but it's also risky. Luxury experts value individuality, but they fear unpredictability. J-Hope's fashion choices can... Number 5. J-Hope, fashion's loudest brain. Placing J-Hope at number 5 is where luxury brand experts start leaning forward in their chairs, because now we're officially in the territory of people who actually understand fashion as a system. Inside luxury circles, J-Hope isn't discussed as an idol who dresses well, but as a thinker, and that distinction matters a lot. From Paris to Milan, stylists and creative directors describe him as someone who doesn't just wear clothes, he plays with them, interrogates them, sometimes even challenges them in a way that feels intentional but never forced. His style has always been expressive, loud when it needs to be, oddly precise when you least expect it, and deeply rooted in street culture that luxury houses have been trying to bottle for decades. Experts often point out that J-Hope has a rare ability to make high fashion feel alive rather than preserved behind glass. When he attends a Louis Vuitton show, he doesn't disappear into the brand. Instead, he bends the brand's energy toward his own rhythm. That's impressive, but it's also risky. Luxury experts value individuality, but they fear unpredictability. J-Hope's fashion choices can swing wildly. One day, experimental tailoring with bold color theory. The next day, silhouettes that look like they escaped from an art school runway after 3 espressos. Insiders admire his courage, but sometimes question his consistency. He's described as a fashion DJ, someone who remixes references, eras, and moods rather than delivering a single, clean signature look. That keeps him slightly lower on the list because luxury brands love clarity, a face, a vibe, a repeatable image. J-Hope resists being boxed in, and that resistance is both his superpower and his ranking limitation. Emotionally, his fashion reads joyful, rebellious, and deeply personal. He dresses like someone who likes fashion, not someone who uses it for status. And experts respect that authenticity, even when it makes campaigns harder to predict. There's also humor in how insiders talk about him. Comments like, "He scares conservative designers, but excites young ones," come up more than you'd think. J-Hope represents the future-facing tension in luxury, the pull between heritage and play. Number 5 reflects that balance. He's not just wearing the clothes, he's stress-testing them, asking whether luxury can still dance, laugh, and surprise without losing its prestige. And for many experts, that question alone makes him indispensable to the fashion conversation, even if he hasn't fully conquered it yet. Number 4, Jimin, silent luxury assassin. When luxury brand experts mention Jimin, the tone changes. Voices drop slightly, sentences get slower, and suddenly everyone agrees on one thing. This man is dangerous, in the most elegant way possible. Ranking him at number 4 isn't about lack of impact, it's about how controlled that impact is. Jimin operates in a zone luxury insiders deeply respect: restraint. His fashion power doesn't shout, doesn't chase, and never begs for attention, yet somehow it dominates rooms filled with editors, buyers, and creative directors who've seen everything. From the very beginning, experts noticed his uncanny relationship with fabric and movement. Jimin doesn't just wear clothes, he inhabits them. His background in contemporary dance gives him an intuitive understanding of silhouette, flow, and tension, making garments look intentional even when they're deceptively simple. When he became the global ambassador for Dior and Tiffany & Co., insiders weren't surprised. They were relieved. Finally, some said, a face that understands quiet power. Luxury experts often describe Jimin's style as emotional minimalism: clean lines, soft palettes, perfectly calibrated sensuality that never crosses into obviousness. That's incredibly hard to pull off, and even harder to sustain. The reason he sits at number 4 instead of higher is subtle but important. Jimin rarely disrupts fashion norms, he perfects them. He elevates existing luxury codes rather than rewriting them. Brands adore this because it's safe, scalable, and timeless. But experts ranking fashion influence often reward those who shift the landscape, not just polish it. Still, the respect Jimin commands is immense. Insiders talk about how his presence increases perceived value instantly, how jewelry looks more expensive, tailoring more refined, and even lighting somehow softer when he's involved. There's an almost unfair elegance to how he moves through fashion spaces, as if he's always slightly ahead of the camera's intention. Emotionally, Jimin's fashion tells a story of discipline, vulnerability, and control, luxury as a second skin rather than armor. Some experts joke that Jimin is the man brands trust with their reputation because he will never embarrass the house, never misinterpret its language, never turn it into spectacle. And yet, that very perfection is why he doesn't crack the top 3. He's not here to shake the table, he's here to make sure the table is flawless. Number 4 reflects a member whose fashion influence is surgical, precise, and devastatingly effective, even if it unfolds without chaos or controversy. Number 3, V, Vintage Soul Disruptor. When luxury brand experts place V at number 3, it's usually accompanied by a half smile and a deep sigh, like they're talking about someone who refuses to play by modern rules and somehow wins anyway. V's fashion energy is impossible to separate from his personality, and that's exactly why insiders find him both intoxicating and mildly terrifying. In an industry obsessed with what's next, V walks in dressed like he's borrowing confidence from the past. His love for vintage tailoring, muted tones, old Hollywood silhouettes, and deliberately slowed-down aesthetics feels almost rebellious in a world addicted to speed. Luxury experts describe him as anachronistic but lethal. meaning he doesn't follow trends, yet he bends them backward until brands are forced to adapt. When V became the face of Celine under Hedi Slimane, the pairing made perfect sense to insiders, a house obsessed with sleek nostalgia, meeting an artist who treats nostalgia like a lifestyle. But here's the thing. V doesn't just wear vintage-inspired fashion, he believes in it. His posture, gaze, and refusal to oversell an outfit create a cinematic effect that editors and photographers crave. He turns fashion moments into still frames from films that don't exist yet. That's powerful, but it's also limiting. Luxury experts rank him at number 3 because while his aesthetic influence is undeniable, it's highly specific. V dominates his lane, but he doesn't try to own every lane. He's not interested in versatility for the sake of brand flexibility, and luxury houses, despite loving his artistry, sometimes want someone who can morph endlessly. Emotionally, Taehyung's fashion presence feels introspective, romantic, and slightly detached, like he's observing the fashion world rather than chasing it. Insiders often joke that V makes luxury executives nervous because he can disappear emotionally, even while being visually unforgettable. He doesn't sell clothes like a salesman, he sells mood, and mood is harder to replicate across campaigns and markets. Still, his impact is massive. Sales spike, editorial credibility skyrockets, and suddenly everyone's talking about texture, tailoring, and restraint again. Number 3 reflects a member who reshapes fashion by slowing it down, reminding luxury that not everything needs to scream to be heard. V doesn't follow the future, he invites the past into the present and dares brands to keep up. Number 2, RM, intellectual power dresser. When luxury brand experts rank RM at number 2, the decision is never emotional. It's analytical, deliberate, and slightly odd. Namjoon isn't just fashionable, he's fluent. Fluent in art history, architecture, design philosophy, and the unspoken codes that govern luxury spaces. Insiders often say RM doesn't wear fashion to be seen, he wears it to communicate. And in an industry built on semiotics and symbolism, that makes him extraordinarily powerful. His evolution from oversized streetwear to refined museum-ready tailoring didn't happen accidentally. Experts watched it unfold like a well-curated exhibition. When RM became the global ambassador for Bottega Veneta, luxury insiders nodded in approval. The brand's emphasis on craftsmanship, texture, and quiet confidence mirrors RM's own intellectual restraint. He doesn't rely on logos, shock value, or exaggerated silhouettes. Instead, he chooses pieces that reward closer inspection, clean lines, sculptural shapes, and materials that feel intentional. That's catnip for luxury experts. Emotionally, RM's fashion presence feels grounded and adult, appealing to curators, architects, editors, and executives who see him as a peer rather than a promotional tool. He raises the cultural value of fashion, not just the commercial one. So why number 2 and not number 1? Because RM's influence is subtle by design. He elevates the conversation, but he doesn't ignite chaos. Luxury rankings often reward those who force the industry to react, and RM prefers to guide it thoughtfully. He's the kind of figure brands trust with legacy, not revolution. Insiders joke that RM is the man you send to open a museum wing, not to crash the party. Yet his impact is undeniable. He makes luxury feel intelligent, ethical, and reflective, reminding the industry that fashion isn't just about what you wear, but what you know. Number 2 represents controlled dominance, the kind that doesn't need noise to be heard, and that's exactly why experts respect him so deeply. Number 1, Suga, luxury's dark horse commander. When luxury brand experts finally agree on number 1, the room goes quiet, and Suga's name lands with a kind of certainty that doesn't need defending. This isn't about flash, visuals, or viral runway moments. This is about authority. Inside luxury circles, Suga is viewed as the most dangerous kind of fashion figure, someone who doesn't look like he's playing the game, yet somehow controls it. Experts describe his style as psychologically dominant. He doesn't chase trends, doesn't overstyle, and rarely explains himself, and that absence of explanation is exactly what gives him power. Suga's fashion influence is rooted in restraint, repetition, and intention. He understands something most celebrities don't. Luxury isn't about variety, it's about conviction. His silhouettes are consistent, his palettes often muted, his fits deceptively simple, but every choice feels final, like a statement that's already been debated internally and settled. When he became a global ambassador for Valentino, insiders weren't surprised. They were impressed by how naturally he fit into the brand's modern intellectual rebellion. Creative directors admire how Suga turns clothing into posture. He makes garments feel lived in, serious, and earned, as if fashion is an extension of his internal world rather than an external performance. Emotionally, his presence shifts energy. Stylists note that rooms become quieter, photographers shoot slower, and brands trust him not to dilute their message. He doesn't need to be loud because his credibility precedes him. Luxury experts rank him at #1 because he embodies what high fashion secretly worships: control without spectacle. He doesn't make clothes exciting, he makes them inevitable. There's also a subtle humor insiders love. Suga looks like he could walk away from fashion entirely and be fine, which, paradoxically, makes fashion cling harder to him. He represents the adult stage of luxury influence, where style isn't a costume, but a philosophy. #1 isn't about being the most photographed or the most experimental, it's about being the most trusted. And in the ruthless, image-obsessed world of luxury, trust is the rarest currency of all. And there it is, the list that luxury insiders argue about behind closed doors but rarely say out loud. What makes this ranking fascinating isn't just who landed at #1 or who didn't crack the top 3, it's how wildly different each member's fashion power actually is. BTS doesn't give luxury one archetype, they give it a spectrum. From Jin's quiet longevity to Jungkook's raw magnetism, from J-Hope's fearless experimentation to Jimin's surgical elegance. These nostalgic disruption, RM's intellectual authority, and Suga's controlled dominance. This isn't a competition of outfits, it's a clash of philosophies. And that's why luxury brands keep circling BTS like satellites. Each member activates a different corner of the fashion universe, speaking to different ages, moods, and values. The real twist? These rankings aren't fixed. Fashion shifts, people evolve, and intention changes. Today's #7 could become tomorrow's #1 the moment he decides to flip the switch. That's what keeps experts watching so closely. So, whether your bias won or lost, one thing's clear. BTS didn't just enter the luxury world, they forced it to grow up, loosen up, and occasionally panic a little. And honestly, that tension is exactly why the fashion industry can't look away.